Hello, this is Jerry. Welcome to my channel. Today we're in Hawthorne, a quiet village here in Essex, looking across a vineyard under soft winter light. The path leads us through this landscape towards a traditional farmhouse framed by trees and a dramatic sky. Vineyards like this are becoming more common in this part of Essex as the climate and soil prove increasingly suitable for wine production. It's a straightforward scene, but a useful one for exploring composition, how a leading line guides the eye, how repeating shapes add depth, and how a limited palette keeps everything calm and cohesive. And by the end, you'll have a clear, practical approach to composing a landscape that feels balanced and believable. Now, starting with the sky, looks a bit complex, but if you look at the outline drawing that I've done some very faint guidelines to help me and to help you work out where the areas are in the sky, where the clouds are. Now, first of all, I'm doing the blue areas, and that is in cobalt blue and a little bit of French ultramarine. You just put those in and leave them. They've got hard edges, and then mix up the next colours. Actually, Payne's grey and a little bit of blue in there, French ultramarine. Nice big pool of colour there, and I'm only using a small brush. I'm just going to work my way from right to left on dry paper. I'll just start going from from right to left, and as I go, change the intensity of the paint. We do have time to work on these skies like this. And then every now and then I'll brush in pure water, soften the edges. Big bank of clouds here. Different intensities of grey and blue. Now just dropping in wet. Cloud that's going to be in front of the lighter grey clouds. This is all about simplification. I think that if you give yourself a little bit more time to work with these skies, they can end up successful. Just using these guidelines that I put in to help me with these cloud shapes. Going over other areas where they're still wet. Once they dry, leave them. It's my intention just to do this sky in one wash and just go in with quite a thin, quite a watery wash, and then darken it up with some thicker colour. One of those sunny, blustery, cloudy days. Now the paper I'm using is £140 Saunders Waterford rough. And the brush I'm using is an Escoda size 6, so it's quite a small brush. This is quite an old brush actually. Just bringing it down to the horizon. Just going round the roof of the bungalow there. As you can see from the original photograph, there's a lot going on with all these rows of vines, fields in front. Just going to turn it all into what they are, into shapes. That large bank of trees on the left, which help the composition. You can see painting this way, you can stop sometimes and leave it and then go back to it after. But I'm doing it all in one go. Allowing for the fact that this is going to be drying a little bit lighter. Winsor & Newton paints. And once again, I'm going to do as much as I can before I have to dry the painting off. A bit of Cadmium Yellow or Sienna. You can see there's a lot of water in this wash, and this is just going to be the first wash for these fields. Not be too fussy. Try to work quite fast. This is just really an undercoat for the final painting. I'm not going to start getting fussy putting in all the every blade of grass. Sap Green. Moved up to a larger round brush. Size 12. This is a Daler brush. Slightly worn brush I'm using here. Doesn't have to be anything special for this part of the painting. And then going in with Hooker's Green and some blue, French Ultramarine. Starting off the bands of darks in this bank of trees on the left there. Burnt sienna. Switch to a smaller brush. Let's go to Prado. Size 8. Size 8 round. Doing the roof of the house. and a very watery wash of Sap Green. Not fussing too much, just putting in the shapes. Just really defining this front row of vines. And I've watered that down even more. Just to put in a wash of light green for the ground beneath these vines. All very quick. Hooker's green, cobalt blue. Quite a lot of blue. Lose some of that green. Quite a powerful colour, that Hooker's green. Does mix well, but you do need to make sure you've got a lot of blue in the mix. Using a size 8 brush. Just some trees in the distance there, to the right of the house. A couple of prominent ones. And they're putting in the hedgerows. Wonderful seeing this, and I think I'm quite lucky to be living in an area that was once just regular arable farmland becoming vineyards. As the weather's becoming dominantly warmer now, we don't get such cold winters. It's now suitable for growing these grapes. Produce some very nice wines, English wines. Just gone back into that grey mixture that I had there for the sky. There's a couple of distant buildings, nothing more than very simple shapes. Using a size 8 brush, going back into this grassy area, doing the foreground. Just some quick expressive strokes, not making too much of it. Just get the impression of rough grass in the foreground. Just adding a little bit of burnt sienna quite quickly, putting that into the mixture. Bringing in the central part of these vines, just a few dots and marks on the lower part, keeping the tops light where the sun's hitting them, and we'll be going darker with the lower parts, even darker still. So raw sienna, still using the same brush, size 8. Putting in these lines of where the fields are. With these vineyards, there's various things grown next to them still. As I said, they were arable farms and would predominantly be corn. This would be after they'd harvested the corn, so a bit later in the year, in the summer. Going darker still with this foreground, giving it light at the top, darker below. But you can see I've not really spent a lot of time with this foreground. Sap Green, putting in the ground beneath the vines, the rows of vines. Really just a line of colour. Now we'll start coming down from the top of this group of trees on the left. Hooker's green, cobalt blue, French ultramarine, nice and dark. Tiny bit of Payne's grey. Putting in darker bands of colour. The outline drawing for this is available on my website for you to download, so you can copy that. Quite a lot of detail in there, including some of these patterns on the group of trees. Going much deeper now. Sepia. It's grey in the mixture. I was always taught to only mix about 3 colours, otherwise it becomes mucky, but sometimes when I'm mixing I'm probably putting in 4 or 5. Don't matter so much with the darker colours. It's really dark at the base. It's a really deep shadow. Some real intense sunshine today. Lots of nice darks and lights in this group of trees on the left. And then using a dark colour for this. Yeah, trees in the distance. Keeping the top light where the sun's bouncing off the top branches. Not where the bushes would be, shrubs and things at the side of that house. You can see with that dark colour it's making the vines appear to be lighter. A bit of water, just clean water on the brush, just to merge those darks. Now putting in a dark colour on the bottom of these vines where they're in the shade. Just catching the bottom of them, leaving the top light. Nothing more than just a few marks. Keeping it quite simple. And as the painting develops, should give the impression of groups of vines growing, and then your imagination fills in the rest behind. Raw sienna. Putting on a few flicks. Just trying to keep a sort of randomness to it. Just be bold. Put it on a few flicks and leave it. I've got a palette knife with a sharp edge here, and I'm just going to try and put in a few marks here, but it's a bit wet. Adding to this grassy area at the start of where the vines are. Putting a little bit of grey colour to the walls on this house in the distance. Be in the shade. Still working on this group of trees here, losing some of that really bright green And some of that mixture there, slightly darker. Small round brush, size 6. Cadmium Yellow and a little bit of that green mixture. Just losing a little bit of the white of the paper. The impression of some vines in the distance. Burnt sienna, raw sienna. Going over the roof of this house in the distance. Just touching it with the tissue there. Get the appearance of some shadow from the clouds on the roof. Just breaking up that expanse of colour there. The roofs of those distant houses. Just a line of grey. Now I'm using neutral tint here, which is quite a dark colour for these vines. Just doing these vines at the front there. And then your imagination will make you believe that there's banks of them behind, even though it's just green lines. Trying to keep it all very random. Slightly different angles. Some of them are twisted. And then just using the side of the brush, size 6 brush, with some real darks at the bottom of these rows of vines. Very carefully with this, just merging it with a bit of water on the brush, just flicking it slightly upwards. And then there's the shadows. Nice dark mixture. Keeping it all very simple. putting in some darker marks, which would be the rows of vines in the distance. And then this is a bigger brush for the long fine point for doing the intricate parts of the painting. Soffits, sides of the building, and windows. Put another wash of grey on this. Quite a lot of shade there. Back to the size 12 brush now. Focus green, Payne's grey, neutral tint, real dark. Quite a nice point on this round brush. Got some deep shadows here, especially as it gets to the bottom. Dark at the bottom, virtually black. Lots of shade there. Intense. Just got a wet brush here, wasn't happy with that. That line I put in there, so just rubbing it slightly with the damp brush to lose that line. Just do a bit of a repair job here. With that. Put more of an angle. The black line to be just a little bit higher. So just going back in again with the raw sienna, burnt sienna mix. Dabbing it again. Looks a little bit better. Roof line didn't go over far enough. Looked like the chimney was hanging off the end. Going in with some thick paint there, and should have left that for a bit to dry, but getting a little bit impatient with that. Bring in shadow. And there we are, a complex scene of a vineyard, simplified. Just taking the tape off and revealing the edges. That's the final painting. Hope you enjoyed this one. Look forward to seeing you again. Bye for now.